Hey everyone, it's Jackie at Spare Room Studio. Today I'm going to colour in the Creatures of Ken Matsuda Hatchet Heroes book, and it's going to be this particular page that I have zoomed in for you here. Hopefully we're going to see it okay and that the lighting will be okay because I am in a different room. I'm in the room that will become my spare room studio / craft room, and I need to get some lighting sorted for in here, but in the meantime I hope that this is okay. I'm going to use all Crayola products today. Crayola Supertips, I've got Crayola Clicks, the Supertips Pastel, and I've also got the Crayola Pipsqueaks. So I'm going to use a combination of any and all of those, whatever I see fit. I also have the original image by Ken Matsuda up on my iPad to have a look at for some colour ideas. And let's get started. I hope that lighting isn't going to be too troublesome. We'll see how we go. I need to get myself some lighting sorted. Okay, so try and get comfortable. I'm in a different chair, a different space. Different light, so let's see how it goes. I have a squeaky chair, so if you hear some squeaking, it is the chair. And I'm just going to get some paper towel. I have a ceramic plate to do my mixing on, and I've got various water brushes that I'm going to use. I'm going to start with that one, I think. And I'm going to get started with Crayola Supertips to start with. As I mentioned, I have the original image of Ken's up on my iPad to have a look at. Now unfortunately the way I'm set up here, you're not going to see me necessarily putting all these colours down. So this will not be a colour along in the true sense of the word. And as you all know, Crayola Supertips do not have numbers or any sort of marking on them anyway. There is a little number there at the end, but I think it's the same on all of them. Yep, embossed on there. So I'm just going to get a range of warm browns if I can to get started for this squirrel. And I might sort of use a combination of any or all of them and mix them as I see fit. That's a nice colour there. I do like that one a lot. And he's also got some what looks like yellow ochre in here as well. Let's see if I can find something like that. Oh, that's very green, but it could work potentially. I don't think there's like a true yellow ochre in the Supertips. It's not bad. Okay, we'll get started with those colours. So as I mentioned, it won't be a true colour along or even a tutorial really. This is a colour and chat just to catch up with you guys and give you a bit of a update on how things are going. I will try and explain what I'm doing here as I go along, but it's not a colour along in the true sense of the word because I don't have colour names and so on, and it would be pretty pointless anyway because when it comes to these Crayola Supertips, everyone has their own way of swatching and naming and putting colours and numbering and so on with these sorts of markers. Now this is all greenery that is growing out of his back here, so to get started I'm going to use that very green tinged sort of ochre colour there, and then I'm going to use Ken's original artwork as a bit of a guide to where to put some colours. But of course, I'm pretty sure that he would not have used Crayola Supertips. for his original artwork, so mine is not going to look anything like his in reality, but I'm just using his as a bit of a guide to roughly work out where I want colours, and then the rest is going to be my creation. And what I'm hoping to do with this one is do the base with the water-based markers, and then come back in another part 2 possibly, and add some Crayola pencils into the mix as well. Make it a true Crayola, colouring, I think, this one. Okay, so if you haven't seen me working this book before, the paper does wrinkle a bit with the water, but it flattens out pretty well, at least to a point where I'm happy with it. And sorry if you can hear my tummy growling. You know, it gets to a point where I'm more than happy to live with it. I don't have an issue with it myself, so I do like to use these particular markers and the water in this book. I have done one before. It will be in my playlists. I've got several playlists set up for different types of things that you might want to view together. So if you take a look at my playlists, you will come across either the Matsuda books listed, or Crayola not watercolours, but Crayola water-based markers used as watercolours as a technique. So, what's been happening? Well, my son has been slowly moving his bits and pieces out of the house this week. He has found a rental property at last that he's moved into. And this week it was school holidays here where I live. And I helped out quite a bit while he's been working and moving and so on. I've been helping with the little one. She's on school holidays. So it's been difficult to do too much while she's around. She's almost 6 years old, and she's very, very, very full on at the moment, where she wants you to do everything with her, play with her, watch her, you know, give her full attention. So it was difficult while they were here to get on with anything that I really wanted to do for myself. You know, which is okay. I mean, in the whole scheme of things, I've got plenty of other time to colour. So, and my, you know, for my hobbies. So, that's okay. But I did go missing in action a little bit, because she does like to use my things if they're out. And so, all my nicer markers and pencils and so on have to go away when she's here, and we tend to just use the Faber-Castell connector pens and some other markers while she's around, and then that way I'm not telling her to be careful with my things, and she's enjoying herself and getting to be creative. So we also did a paint by numbers while she was here. Somebody had bought her a paint by number kit, which was far too advanced for her age. So it was quite amusing, because she started off, she wanted to make the picture look like the picture on the cover of the box, which was a vase of flowers, but in a very loose, abstracted sort of interpretation. And she fast realised that she wasn't going to be able to make it look like the picture on the box. So she said, "That doesn't matter, does it, Granny? We can do whatever we want." And I said, "That's precisely right." it wasn't a particularly attractive picture on the box anyway. And so she went ahead and did her own thing with a few little ideas that I shared with her. And she was quite pleased with the results. It made me laugh because she said, "Granny, do you think they will hang this in the art museum so other people can see my artwork?" So I like how at that age there's no judgment really. You know, it's just I did it and it's good, so therefore everyone else should see it. So that was a bit of fun. We did that. I've gone out the lines there a bit, but that doesn't really matter. So yeah, we did that. What else did we do creatively? Not really a lot creatively. She's very much at the moment into wanting to go to the park, you know, ride a bike on the scooter, all those sort of active things, kick the ball and so on. And so I'm not really able to do a lot of that still at the moment. So her dad was on hand to do all that with her. And so she has gone home again this week. And my son still has quite a bit of his own things in this room that I'm calling my spare room studio. When it is set up how I want it to be set up, I'll do a little quick look or a photo or something so you can see the space that I'm in. I have a lot of things to retrieve off the top of the wardrobe, or get my husband to do for me next weekend maybe, and then I can start setting things up how I'd like to set them up, rather than working around having a house, you know, house guest, a permanent house guest that he became. Because in the beginning he said to me, "Mum, don't move all your stuff. I don't know how long I'm going to be here, and you know, it's a lot of work for nothing." He never intended to be here as long as he was. But while he was here, obviously, the property market went bonkers. Prices have just been through the roof. And rental properties in particular have become harder and harder to find in the kind of price range and bracket that he could afford. It was very competitive. You know, it's just so hard for young people to find somewhere that they can afford and get started. So it's very, very competitive. And so he just sort of slowly ended up pushing me out of this room completely, because he was here all the time. To start with, he was only here a few days a week. He did have another place that he shared, but he wasn't allowed to take his daughter there. Her mother didn't want him having her there, so his access visits had to be here at our house. So yeah, he just gradually spent more and more time here, and then had to actually come back here full time when the sharing setup that he had came to an end. Their landlord put the rent astronomically high, and the person he was sharing with then moved in with a girlfriend, which meant that my son couldn't afford it on his own. So gradually I got pushed out of this room completely, and hence all my stuff started to get put into boxes and baskets on the top of my wardrobe, which are out of reach. And I was relegated to using the dining table for doing sort of bigger work and when I started recording. So we're sort of doing a bit of a return to how it used to be. very slowly. He's still got a few things here that he needs to move out, and I'm doing a big spring clean, but I'm having to do it in little bits where I'm pacing myself because I don't want to obviously open up this wound I have on my back. So onto that, that has had mixed issues this week. The wound from the surgery is actually healing really well and is almost completely healed up. But because the dressings have been on for so long, my skin all around it has become so sensitive and sore that I've been having some really horrendous irritation and soreness, which is not actually due to the surgery or the wound itself, but just the constant dressings and lack of air that's been able to get to my skin. So over the weekend I had a bit of a torrid time of it, and I made an executive decision myself how to proceed, and got my husband to remove the main dressing, and we've worked out another way to handle things ourselves. And in the meantime I had a visit from the one of the nursing people today, who I haven't seen for several weeks. You don't always get continuity of care when you have these sorts of things. You end up seeing lots of different people who don't ever really follow through, you know, the whole section of your care. And this lady that came today, she's really lovely. She's been a few times earlier in the whole process, and she was absolutely horrified at how bad my skin had gotten. And so together we've come up with a solution that feels comfortable for me, you know, takes care of all the necessary stuff that needs to be taken care of for the wound. And hopefully now I'm pretty close to getting to sort of the point where I won't even need dressings at all. That's, you know, that's not too far away now, I don't think. I just have to be careful that I don't overdo things, because I'm sort of sensing that the end of this process is pretty near, and I'm wanting to do things. So I'm still having to be cautious and tell myself, you know, not yet. Just give it another week or so. I think another week or so will be great, just to ensure that that wound is well and truly healed, that it can't open up or you know, get any sort of problem with it through movement. And then I'm good to go. I can really get stuck into you know, some of these little cleaning up projects and setting up projects that I want to do, not only in this room but around the house, because the house has really only been getting the barest minimum you know, done to be hygienic, basically. I haven't been able to be pulling things out and underneath things and bending and stretching and all that sort of movement, you know, for quite some time now. So I'm really looking forward to being able to get stuck into some of the projects. And it's spring here, so the spring cleaning and so on that I like to get done before summer hits and it becomes too ridiculously hot to be doing stuff. I'd like to get on with some of that, and I really want to get myself set up in this room how I wish to be, you know, using it and how I wish to be set up. So to start with, I'm going to do all of these colours quite washy, and then I might come in with directly with markers or pencils or something when I'm certain that I've got the colours where I want them. So, you know, it's quite washy at the moment. As it dries, it might be drying quite pale. So I'm just looking at Ken's original artwork that I have on my iPad off to the side, and then I'm just using it for some ideas really. I'm certainly not totally mimicking his. I've got quite a lot that's similar to his but not the same. Now with the Crayola Supertips, there isn't really the red that I'm hoping for, I don't think. That's more, yeah, that's more pink. That actually might work for the bird though. Put a little bit of that over here on the bird. I don't really want it to bleed through if I can help it. What's on there? There's a pig on the other side, so if we can avoid getting any bleed through of colour would be great. But if it does, well, hey ho, I'll work with it. Let's have a look what other sort of reds I've got in these other products here. So I've got the Crayola Clicks, which are retractable markers. And that box is actually opening at the side. Just having everything rolling away here, just to bear with me. There's all sorts going on here, isn't there? I'm sorry about that. So it's not really a red in there, is there? I think that is meant to be the red. So the floor in my spare room is polished floorboards, hence why there's a bit of noise and a bit of movement going on. I'm just going to use one of these little palettes. That doesn't look like red at all. That might actually be better to come back when it's dry and try putting some of that on there. Alright, so that's that one. Then we've got the pipsqueaks here. And the pipsqueaks red looks very similar to maybe very similar to the Crayola red. Sorry, the Supertips red. I'm getting my words all mixed up. They're very similar. There's not going to be a lot of difference in there at all. So, let's go back to the water brush. It's the clicks. That's just more of a pinky red, I think. I have a feeling that the red that I'm really going to want to create is probably going to come from having the pencils on it. I don't think I'm going to be actually creating the sort of red that I would really like. That all looks very much the same. All right, let's keep going. That's not a problem. We can introduce pencils later, or I could introduce another set, but I don't really want to at this point. So the next thing I'm going to do, now that it's started to dry, I'm going to just darken up some of these areas before I wipe the plate off. So it's taken a really long time. The beginning of all of this process regarding the surgical stuff started on the 30th of July, and today I believe is the 8th of October, and I can finally see the end in sight. So technically by this stage, had nothing gone wrong with the original procedure, you know, I'd be healed by now. I'd be enjoying my life. You know, hopefully the device that was implanted that was going to help me with a bladder issue would have been working as it should, and I should have been happily getting on with, you know, whatever I wanted to do, basically. The original procedure that I had done, you know, didn't have a great length of time for recovery and healing, so technically I should sort of be well on the way to have recovered, if not fully recovered by now. Just going to see how that works if I put the colour directly on the paper instead of mixing it on the plate, and we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I quite like that. Once that paper dries, I should be able to do that without fear of it bleeding through too much. So I might put that plate aside. And just pop that aside for now. And let's just start maybe putting some colour down directly. I want some of these to be very natural. So if you're not confident with mixing colour on a plate, but you don't like streakiness or so on from your water-based marker, test it on a page at the back or something you don't like very much, but you can blend and soften the colours directly on the paper with the Supertips. It is possible to do that. And I say do some tests because it does bleed through more doing it that way, I have found in the past. But if you're working with light colours or very lightly, you should be able to build a little bit of colour up in that manner without too much trouble. As I say, always test your colours, test your supplies at the back of your book in an inconspicuous place. Please remember that, you know, I'm a little bit blasé with my books and the method that I work, and I tend to just sort of dive in. You know, I feel like I've got so many books, it doesn't matter if I have to sacrifice a few pages here and there. It's okay, you know, that image is all right, but it wouldn't bother me too much. You know, if I made it to the point where I couldn't actually salvage it and work on it, it wouldn't upset me that greatly. So Ken has worked very loosely in the watercolour. And I think I'd like to mimic that in some areas, but in some other areas I'll like to bring in a bit more detail, and so I might do that with coloured pencil. I want like a bluey grey on the wings here. So as I'm getting older, my need for fine detail and perfection in colouring is diminishing all the time, and I'm finding that as I've got not less patience, but I've got less desire to sit and labour over each piece like I used to do. I used to be very keen to get things perfect, and I didn't mind spending that time to get it looking exactly how I wanted, you know, and get that perfectly. Now I'm finding that I'm not so eager to spend that sort of time, and these images that have got very washy, loose, watercolory effects and so on are becoming much more desirable to me to mimic and to learn, and that's very much a personal sort of journey or evolving to get to that point. Not everybody's going to. Some people might start out liking this sort of style and method, but then as they get more involved, they might desire to learn how to do tighter details and become more proficient with a more detailed sort of effect. So some of us do it in a different order. I'm just looking for a bit of a bluey grey now. So everyone's little journey or experience of art is going to be really personal and very much tailored to their life experiences, their preferences, their likes, their dislikes and so on. You know, no two people are going to go about developing their art skills in the same way, nor should they, because it would be a pretty boring world if all our art, all our visual, you know, visual art, 2D images and so on, if they were all identical, it would be a pretty boring world that we live in. And so, you know, if you don't like this particular style, that's not offensive to me. It's not going to bother me at all. You know, if you wish to pursue a different style and you don't feel like my channel's for you, that's fine, because there's so many artists sharing different ways and different techniques, different ideas and so on the internet these days, that you will find somebody that you gel with. You know, and you may find that further down the track you may come back to somebody like me, and you know, I'll meet your needs for not colour alongs, but I'll meet your needs for ideas in a different way to perhaps what you need right this moment. Because personally I have quite a few people that there are times that I watch every video that they put out religiously, and then there are some that, you know, I start thinking, oh, that's really not the way that I like to work these days, or they're using products that I'm not really interested in. You know, say they're using chalk pastels, and pastels are not really what I want to do, then that's fine. I just don't watch those videos until something comes back up that piques my interest again and I start watching again. So it's perfectly okay. Oh, that's very fluorescent, we won't use that one. You know, it's perfectly okay to feel that way. It's an unusual little peachy colour here. Yeah, that's looking cute. Actually looks nicer on the camera than it does in real life, I think. Which is unusual, because normally on the camera it's not as vibrant as it is in real life. So I might use some of that peachy colour in the mushrooms and toadstools and so on. So please feel free, you know, to dip in and out of people's YouTube channel and their videos and their content and so on at the pace where it suits you. You know, it's really about finding something that resonates with you, where you are at this particular point in time, what you're wanting to achieve and what you're enjoying. And it's okay to switch off or scroll onto another content creator if, you know, it's not meeting your needs at this particular time. You're always welcome to come back whenever you do want to, you know, watch my approach. But I hugely support, you know, just finding that person that you click with, that what they're doing clicks with what you're hoping to achieve, and that the way that they teach or share information just matches exactly what you need at that given point in time, and run with that, you know. So this is a really quick way to get your base colours down. The slowest part of the process is waiting for your paper to dry, of course. But once this bit is done, it's going to be really easy to then come back with some coloured pencils and put some details back in, you know, strengthen some colours up. and soften some off and so on, it's going to make it a lot quicker and easier. Now hopefully, because I'm sitting in a different room now, you may hear that my neighbour, she's out in her garden at the moment, but she sometimes can be quite loud, so I hope that's not going to be a problem on the videos. She's a Greek lady. She's very, very friendly, very community minded. She's great, you know. 90% of the time I don't bring my own rubbish bin in because she beats me. You know, she sees your rubbish bin's been emptied and it's out, she brings it down for you and puts it by the gate, and she's just a very kind person. But I find that when she's having a chat to people, when she gets excited with her Greek accent, sometimes she gets really loud. And she has a cat. She likes to talk to the cat. So hopefully that's not going to be too much of a problem sitting here when I'm recording. I just hope that it doesn't sort of show up on the sound on the video too much. It might be that it's just more prevalent to me sitting here than it is to you guys listening to it. Now this one, if I remember rightly, in the Crayola Clicks retractable markers, the marigold was the colour that I really liked. Yeah, it's sort of a very warm yellow that's almost bordering on light orange. It's an awesome colour and it's perfect for that flower. Just going to put a little bit of extra darkness in there. Just blend that out a bit. Such a pretty colour. And it looks like he's got these little flowers up here, like a little light pale blue or lilac-y colour. Well, I'm going to go for lilac myself. I'm going to start making these mushrooms stand out a little bit more now. That paper is drying reasonably fast. Just keeping an eye on how that colour is going through there. Let's see what the click marker works like with that Supertips there. Looks rather nice. Yeah, see, I did go through there where I've wet the Clicks retractable marker. Once it was wet, it actually went through. But that is on the background, so I could potentially hide that with a dark background, so that's not a big deal, but it's worth keeping in mind if you use these. The Crayola Clicks retractable, when I wet it, it did actually bleed through. And that yellow that was quite fluorescent, I'm actually going to bring some of that in just in a few little areas to really pick up that colour. So my first instinct when I found that my son was moving out and that I was going to get back into this little room of mine, my first instinct was that I wanted to rush out and buy new furniture and make the room really pretty, a really pretty sort of studio room. But then I sort of put the brakes on myself and thought, no, let's just get in there and start using the room again and work out what we want. I could possibly use a new chair because I don't have a comfortable chair in here. And I have been known to sit colouring for quite some time, you know, like a long time without moving. So a comfortable chair is probably a must. But in terms of a desk or a table or so on, what I've actually got in this room, what I'm sitting at the moment, is actually an old dining room table that I bought from a friend. And it's a table that's big enough to sit 6 people at it. So it's a fair sized table. And while it's been difficult while my son's been in this room because it's taken up a lot of space and he's sort of had to adapt around it and so on, as a little creative table, it is, you know, twice the size of most desks. And so I'm in two minds about whether to get rid of it or not, or whether to keep it, just get a comfy chair to sit at. And then of course your mind goes to things like storage. You know, I want all pretty matching storage containers and I want it to look pretty, and but do I really need all of that is the question. It's not going to actually make me create any differently, but what it will do is set the mood for me to want to be in the room. You know, because sometimes if you don't have a aesthetically pleasing place to sit and create, you're not necessarily going to want to actually go in there to create. So I'm going to have to give that a little bit of thought about what I'm going to do there. This is coming along quite nice now. It's very pretty, but I do definitely feel like I need to have some pencils. I need some darks. It's very monotone still at the moment, and I do feel like I need a bit of more dramatic colour in here. So I've talked before about the concept of minimalism and how I don't necessarily want lots of things cluttering up my house. So it's funny how the old habits and the old way of thinking immediately kicked in Like, oh, I need new stuff. Oh, I need more. And no, I don't really need more. What I do need is maybe to think about how I can repurpose some of my things to match my needs a little bit better. And also examine why I feel like I need to have new pretty things to make it worthwhile. Because, you know, I used to use all these things in my room at one point and thought they were good choices. So I know we evolve and we change and our tastes change and all that sort of thing, but yeah, I think it's quite important to, for me, to have a little think about why my mind immediately went to, you know, oh, I need more, I've got to get more, I've got to get new. And I'm not sure if it's Amazon Prime Day everywhere in the world, but it certainly is Amazon Prime Day here in Australia. I had a bit of a look to see what was on the specials, and there didn't appear to be that much in the way of art materials or, you know, stationery or colouring materials or so on that was listed. So I'm going to keep my eye on it. I'll have a look at it again later and just see if there's anything different has been listed. But I put a few things into my Amazon basket and then took them out and cancelled it again. So the only thing that I really are interested in looking at is some new alcohol markers, because some of my alcohol markers are drying out. So it would be nice to invest in some new alcohol markers if I see a good sale on those. But so far, you know, I haven't seen anything really that I could say is actually you know, a decent enough saving to rush out and buy, which is a bit disappointing, because as I say, I am in the market for alcohol markers, and if I can get a bargain on them, I'd certainly be happy. So for me personally, this little journey of decluttering and minimalising that I've had in my house for several years now, I find it really interesting, you know, that impulse was to immediately go and get more again, which is so silly when I've worked so hard to get my amount of belongings down to a manageable point that felt more comfortable. And what I think it is that I've been so frustrated at the lack of space, the lack of freedom to set up and leave my things, you know, once I've had a colouring session and I'm finished. I haven't had the space to leave that stuff out and just come to it the next day. And I think it's the general feeling of lack of control that I've got at the moment due to this health, you know, continuing health challenges with the healing of the wound, the fact that I've been quite restricted with my movement now for 2.5, you know, nearly 3 months, I want to be doing things that I can't do, that I know I have to restrict myself from doing. And my thinking is that that's where it's stemming from, is that suddenly faced with a little bit of freedom and a little bit of, you know, choice again, that I sort of thought what I had was not enough. But it is enough, I just haven't been able to use it how I've wanted to be using it, but I have plenty. And apart from the issue with a comfortable chair, as I mentioned, you know, what I have is perfectly serviceable. There's nothing wrong with it at all. And in the whole scheme of things, I was looking at IKEA for ideas, and while I like perfectly curated spaces that you know, have a nice colour scheme and everything works together because it's brought together as a set, I do actually like old furniture, and I do actually like natural wood furniture. So this table that I've got is like a pine table that has been stained in a natural wood colour. So I think what I will be doing is not being hasty and rushing out just yet. I think I actually need to get back into the room, start using it again, you know, how I want to use it, and then have a think after that point, is there anything not working or that could be improved to be more comfortable or so on. So what I'll do in a minute is lift up the book and show you how it's looking. And then I will come back in part 2 with pencils and do some finishing touches. It's a very nature-based image, so I don't think there's going to be any need for glaze pens or sparkles or, you know, anything like that. So I've got Hamish come to say hello. I don't think he knows what to make of things because normally he's told to not come in this room. And now here I am sitting in the room. He doesn't know whether he should come in here or not. But given that he generally wants to be wherever I am, it won't take him long to work that out, I don't think. I think the only thing that may be needed as an added thing on here might be a white acrylic paint pen if I've lost some highlights. But I think that's going to be about it, to be honest. Okay. So you can see that I've got a bit of cockling from the water. It's making the page bend a little bit there. Yeah, I think in this instance it may be looking more vibrant on camera than it is in real life, to be fair. See if we can get in close for this little bird here for you. So I need to blend some of that area out a little bit better. I'd like to do some texture in here to make it look more like grass, like he's actually got grass growing from his fur. Quite happy with the way that little bird's coming along though. So there you go. I hope the lighting wasn't too bad for you being in this new room, and that there wasn't too many obtrusive noises from chairs and things like that. And I will be back really soon with part 2 for you in this particular page. So thanks for spending time with me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye now.